Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Mindset Great podcast. I am your host, Michelle Barris, and today I bring in a very powerful and special interview about magnetic personal branding, how to create an intentional personal brand that attracts the right people to you. And there's no one better than Tracey Pontarelli to introduce this topic to us. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Tracey. Tracey is a former marketing and branding professional turned multiple six-figure wellness entrepreneur and business and mindset coach. She had a successful career in brand marketing and public relations that she loved, but the hours were long and the demands were intense. When she tried to balance her career goals with her growing family, she hit a tipping point. Desperately wanting the flexibility to be with her children, Tracey decided to transition to full-time mommyhood, jumping into volunteering and playdates. She loved the time with her family, but still wanted to build a fun and rewarding career that allowed her to live a life by her own design. As her three children began to grow, Tracey tapped into her love of wellness and skills as a brand marketer to build a successful wellness business. Key to her success has been understanding the powers of attraction marketing and positive mindset, and being very intentional in everything she does. She now coaches frustrated moms just like her how to build a profitable online income without sacrificing their priorities by being authentic, deliberate, and magnetic. Let's dive right in to this very special interview with Tracey.
Your beautiful smile, your beautiful life.
Welcome to the Mindset Great podcast, a show for the professional career-driven woman who is action-oriented, ambitious, and ready to discover her passion. This podcast is for highly skilled women who want to live to their fullest potential, become a leader in their field, and design a beautifully blended life filled with balance and passionate purpose. In 20 minutes or less, we are going to walk through the latest strategies to build your confidence, identify your goals, discover your passions, let the leader in you lead, and mindset tools to recreate the way you think. Let's break through the barriers of imposter syndrome and allow you to start living the life you have always wanted. I'm your host, Michelle Barris, retired police sergeant, small business owner, current registered nurse turned life and career coach. I'm also the founder of The Great Method and the Mindset Great podcast. More importantly, I'm on a mission to change one woman at a time, a mission that allows professional women just like you to fall in love with their work again, and if not in love with their current job, then finding the job they can have and live happily ever after with. So sit back, grab a pen and paper to take notes, and let's dive in.
Shine. With every morning comes a new chance to start over. Every day is a treasure.
So, Tracey Pontarelli, am I saying that right?
Yes, you are.
So multiple six-figure entrepreneur, you started everything to become more flexibility, being a mom, and I have three children. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And then you started off doing a wellness business.
Yeah.
All right. So as we dive in, I think that something that really fascinates me is that you're very diverse in everything that you do. I think it's amazing how you connect with people. So can we start with magnetic marketing and what it is?
Yeah. We're going to get started right now.
We are. We're going to get started
All
right
right,
now. We're
let's
going to
do
break
it.
it right on down. So
I'm so excited. This is one of my favorite topics to have. And I just want to thank you again for having me on. This is so much fun. So the way that I like to start thinking about magnetic marketing is really thinking about the law of attraction and understanding that everything we do has a magnetic quality to it, right? So everything we say, everything we do, everything we think. And so what I really try to help entrepreneurs understand, particularly online as personal brands, is you are either attracting or repelling all the time. And so you really want to get super intentional and authentic in your marketing so that you are pulling the right people towards you and also not being afraid to maybe push the wrong people away. Right. I think sometimes when we get onto social media, particularly, we don't want to ruffle any feathers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm certainly not saying be just, negative or rude, on social, because I never think that's an appropriate thing, but it's okay to be who you are, really authentically who you are, because the people that are like you are going to find you if you're willing to do that. So it's really about being intentional and understanding and taking ownership that your marketing is happening by default or by design. And so go create some attraction back towards you.
I think that's a great message. And it really resonates with me personally. I can say when I first started out, so my background's in policing. And when I first started out, I really wanted to come across as this warm and fuzzy and soft and nice. And not that I'm not warm, fuzzy, soft and nice, but at the end of the day, I have 20 years of strict discipline in me. And that's what I'm good at. And I hold people to the fire. So I just had to let that come out. And you're right. People will like you. Some people won't like you, and that's okay. The ones that need you will find you.
Right. And I would even argue that you found that career in policing because part of who you are is a really strong person who holds yourself to high standards and holds other people to them as well. Right. So that's how you found yourself there. And then sometimes we try to step away from like what really lights us up inside. And what's the point if we're not being ourselves, right? What's the point of it all if we're not being ourselves?
No, I 100% agree with that. So on one of your recent podcasts, you talk about creating brand pillars.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that process?
Sure. I'd love to. So here's what I really start with people trying to help. This goes back to just what we were just talking about, is to really start with who you are and what lights you up. And really digging into that process so that you can understand what are your, strengths, what are your passions, what do you want to bring to the table, and then really overlap them over who your target is and how you can serve them, right? Because there might be some things that I'm super passionate about, but they have nothing to do with my target audience. So they're not really going to end up as one of my core brand pillars if they really don't serve the person that I'm trying to help on social media. So what you really want to do is match your passions, interests, strengths with the needs and desires of your target. And then between those two things, that's how you create some content pillars. So I really encourage people to do no more than 5 and really probably stay in like the 3 area is really a good place. And then once you do that, all of a sudden your brain, it's a fun thing about our brain. When we tell our brain what to look for, it will narrow its focus and look for content information that fills those needs. Until we get focused, our brain has no idea what to do. And that's why so many entrepreneurs get onto social media and they're like, oh, I don't know what to post, because they haven't done the work to get specific on what they want to say, who they want to serve, and then how to narrow that into some fields. So those are the key content pillars. They're really, really helpful. It's such a useful exercise.
That I call them content buckets.
Yeah.
So same concept. And I think that you're
concept.
great that you say 5, even down to 3, I think makes it a little more focused, but definitely positioning it in to where you're at and recognizing that sometimes they change too.
Sure.
I mean, your buckets can be ever changing, because I know mine started off one way and then a squirrel and I went down a different road to end up getting to where I finally had to figure out what served me and served the people that I was talking with.
Yeah. I love that, because I think we also will take ourselves very seriously on social media. And I'm sure you feel the same way. There's a lot of people on social media that I've watched their growth journey, and I've been with them through that transformation themselves of how they've shifted and pivoted and grown. And that's what we do as humans. Like, we grow, we learn, we pivot, we try something new, we shift. It's okay. Just take people on the journey. And sometimes the only way to know if something's not working is to try it. And then, like, what we were just talking about earlier, like, you were trying to be something that you felt like people needed and it didn't feel right to you.
Right.
The only way to know that was to head down that path a little bit, right? That's what life's a great teacher, but you've got to be willing to try it.
Oh yes, for sure. And you've got to be willing to take good criticism, good feedback, and adapt and overcome.
Yes.
My mom used to say, if there's no bone sticking out or blood squirting, you're fine. Dust yourself off and move. I'm like, okay, here we go.
Right. You didn't die. Maybe it was a little embarrassing.
All right. So
okay.
let's talk about your word of the year workshop.
Yes.
Such a powerful word. I love it.
Okay. So I love this. Can I give you a little, I don't know if you've talked about the reticular activating system. Can I give a little
Absolutely.
The
stage is yours.
Well, when I learned this, my brain kind of did like a little mini explosion. Because when you understand the science behind how our brains work, then you're like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. So I'll just give you an example. And you may have heard this one before, but if I had said to you, okay, Michelle, how many red cars did you see today? And you may or may not know, right? If I had messaged you this morning and said, so I want you to count red cars, and every red car you see, I'll give you $1,000 for the red car.
I'll be looking for a lot of red cars.
You're going to know exactly how many red cars you saw, right?
Right.
So there's a part of our brain, it's called the RAS for short. It's called the reticular activating system. And it's a bundle of nerves. It sits at the bottom of our brainstem, and it acts like a Google filter. So if any parents that are out there, any moms that are out there, if you hear your kid call mom in a crowded room, that's your reticular activating system, right? It's like you're tuned to, your brain has sometimes just decided on its own what's important. But you can train your brain to focus on what's most important. And the way you do that is you start to narrow your focus. This is why affirmations help. This is why a word of the year helps. So I love at least one word of the year, but you could come up with two if you can't decide. And it just creates a focus for yourself for the year. And I know my words have been very different from year to year, depending on what I needed in my life at that moment in time. I remember 2 years ago, my word was align, and I felt very incongruent in my life. And that was 2020. That was a year of massive change for everyone. But that was a year where I really made a bunch of pivots where I was like, I got to line myself back up so that I'm living my life according to what's most important to me.
Right.
And so finding the word, and I've got a good friend who just expansion is hers this year. Everyone's got a different one. It can be forgiveness. It can be honesty. It can be, really mine is magnetic for this year.
Mine is yes.
Yours is yes. I've got
Mine
one
is
of my
yes.
best friends, hers is yes. Right. And it speaks to where you are in your moment. And it really helps if you put it places to remind yourself. So you can put it on your screensaver. You can put it on jewelry. There's really some fun jewelry where you can do a bracelet. I'm trying to remember the name of it, but you can carve it in a bracelet and have it on your wrist. You can just it's a constant reminder of where you want to go. And then your subconscious brain goes to work to make that true.
Right.
Yeah.
Remind me again, what is your word this year?
Magnetic.
Magnetic. I like it. And do you have it everywhere for you to see?
I have it everywhere. And I just did a workshop for a couple of different workshops for vision boards.
Right.
And I'm sure you use Canva. If you use Canva, you can create your vision board on Canva. It's super easy.
Love Canva.
And I can even give you my template. I'll send it to you so you can put it in the show notes.
Yeah. Perfect.
I've got a template that people could just copy, and you can create so magnetic is on my vision board. My vision board, I printed it out. It's on my bulletin board. I've got a little mini one that's on my phone. I put it everywhere. Reminds you of where you want to head. And I think Brendan Bouchard was the one who first said this, but your life either happens by default or by design.
Correct.
Right. And so when you decide where you're going, your subconscious brain decides with you that it's going to look for the things that make that true for you. So it creates less work for yourself when you decide where you're going. You just have to
100%
decide where
agree.
you're going.
I 100% agree that your subconscious will listen to what you tell it to do. And that's why magnetic mindset matters so much. I mean, to have it there.
So much. And if we could leave your listeners with anything, the real work is to stop beating yourself up.
Mm-hmm. What you say,
because
what you think, how you act, all of that.
Right. The self-defeating thoughts that lead to the self-defeating behaviors are what are really throwing you off. Right. It's not what anybody else is doing. It's not who got what, she had better opportunity. None of it. It's all literally how you see yourself and the way you're talking to yourself. Especially as women, we're just really hard on ourselves.
What would you say is one way people could start to make a mindset change each day?
Yeah. So the first thing, and you might not be a meditator.
I am.
You are. The first thing is to find some time for mindfulness practice, whether it's meditating or something else, listening to a good podcast, having some type of journaling exercise. But even just starting with something like the Calm app or Insight Timer. Those are two that I really love.
Right.
Insight Timer is great because it's free and there's a ton of people on there. You can just type in what you want. I also listen to this really great podcast of this guy, Bob Baker is his name, and he just does affirmations. He just does daily affirmations. But the meditation process, so I know you're going to agree with this, is everything. Because until you can see the difference between you and your thoughts, until you can separate and realize that your thoughts are just happening kind of on their own, and they're often not true, and they're often not helpful. And so once you realize that, you can just see them for what they are. I have a little practice that if I'm having a negative thought, I say not helpful to myself. I tell myself I'm being not helpful. And I
walk around and just shout that out.
Yeah. I say not helpful, not helpful. And then I
What's going
laugh
on with that lady.
Yeah. That crazy lady. I live in New York City. I'm not disturbing anybody.
Everybody talks to themselves in New York City.
Everybody talks to themselves. Yeah. So I really, really encourage people to get into some type of meditation practice, mindfulness practice, because our brains are running our minds are running our lives. And once you start to master that, everything changes.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Right.
So we talked about your vision boards, and I know how much you value vision boards. I love vision boards myself. I think I have still some from when I was in high school, and I would cut pictures out from magazines and put them together, and I would take letters and make words and everything else. But they help you get to where you want to be.
Yeah.
When someone's just starting out, they've got the Canva template that they can get in the show notes from you. Is there something, do you like to do vision boards based upon one topic at a time? Do you like them broad for anything and everything, or how do you like to narrow in on them?
Yeah. So I've got a little workbook that I can share as well.
Okay.
So what I tend to find, you've been doing these for a long time as well. I love that you did it the old school way. It's so much easier now. I mean, it was really fun to do it that way, but it was very time consuming.
Oh, yes.
Very time consuming. Now it's so much easier. What I tend to find in my own life and helping coach people on this is there's always one area there's usually one area that's really out of alignment. Sometimes there's several, but typically there's something that's not lining up with everything else. So there's always something to focus on, but I tell people to go broad, and then narrow it in. So the way that I like to start that process is with the word of the year exercise.
Right.
Because what I love about that is you'll come up with your top words of the year, but you'll have done the work where you've got all of the other words. In the process, you have basically created your words for your vision board. Right.
Oh, that
So
makes
then you can
sense.
go
Yeah.
back. Yeah. So you've kind of done kind of the process, and then you can take it and look at it in another way. And then I just really encourage people to sit down and say, okay, kind of in the key areas of your life, right? Your health, your business, your family, your relationships. Do you have specific goals?
Right.
Right? Where do you want to be a year from now? Imagine what that would look like. What, in order to do that, what would you need to do more of? What would you need to do less of? And just people journal it down. And then that tends to just open up your mind. And then I always tell people to take a little bit of time between that process. And this is the beauty of doing it on Canva. You can start it, you can walk away from it, you can let your subconscious brain go to work a little bit. And then all of a sudden you'll have another idea. You can go back and you can add. And then I tell people, like, give yourself like a week of that and then lock it, print it, bring it out.
Yeah. So when you're printing it out, do you print your vision boards out then?
I print it out.
Okay. I'm a printer too.
bulletin
I've
board.
got to tangibly have it so that I can see it all the time.
Yeah.
I wanted to see how you do that. I will.
Yeah.
This is kind of kooky.
I love being able to walk by it.
Right.
And have it be a constant visual reminder. And I also made like a little mini one for my phone because that's the thing we look at more than anything. Right.
No,
so
I agree with you. Yeah.
that was a good
mine. I
exercise.
post mine in the bathroom, and then I have a vision board in my kitchen that I keep it on to remind myself constantly. But I didn't think about making it my screensaver. That's a new thought for me there. Right now it's my dogs, but yeah, I can see that being, because I do look at it all the time, especially to see what time it is or something to that effect. So that would make perfect sense.
It's the thing we look at the most. So it's a good idea to just put it there. If you want a regular visual reminder of your vision, putting it on your phone is the number one place to put it, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's move on to your live video course.
Yes.
If you don't create video content, your ability to connect with your audience is so limited.
Right.
So for our listeners who are new to social media, can you explain live content, why it's such a huge impact that you need to have when you're trying to create your brand awareness and everything?
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say this knowing that for some people getting on camera is the scariest thing for them. And the fastest, most authentic way for people to really build a strong connection with you is to see you and hear you, right? If you think about the people that that are public, in your own life, people because you see them and hear them. But if you think about like public personalities,
right?
Why you feel like you know them, it's because you've seen them and heard them. That's how we build the know, like, trust factor.
Yes.
And here's what I'll say that should make everyone feel better. Authentic marketing is trending, right? Since the pandemic, being off on a jet, looking perfect, having the crew, nobody cares anymore about any of it, right? We're done. We've all been in each other's houses. The Today Show was filmed from people's living rooms. Like, we're all done.
In their pajamas.
And so you can be yourself. And I think it's just going back to just getting really clear on who you are and who you're talking to and getting those content buckets. You call them the buckets, right? Getting those content buckets down. When you feel really authentic and comfortable with what you're talking about, it's going to be a lot easier.
Correct.
And then I would just say, just start imperfectly. You do not need to be a professional on camera. You just need to be yourself. Authenticity is vastly underrated. Yes. It's really the number one thing that makes us connect to each other is our not being perfect.
My first live show that I did a 5-day live event. And I remember, I will never forget it. And I get so much feedback of laughter and great feelings, I guess. I don't know, because I felt like I humiliated myself, but apparently it made an impact. But because everyone is on their camera and from the waist down, you never know what someone has on these days.
Right.
So I was doing my live and I had shorts on. I had a shirt, my nice dress shirt on today. I have dress pants on, but I had a nice shirt on and I had shorts on, and I moved in my chair and my skin rubbed my chair. And I went, oh, well, it wasn't that pleasant during the day, because everybody was like, what was that? I'm like, it's my chair. So then I had to show everybody I'm wearing shorts. I'm fronting myself out right now. I'm not doing things on camera, but it was the most probably good engagement that I got, because people were like, look at you laughing at yourself. I would be mortified right now. And I'm like, this is your life. And if you can't laugh at yourself,
Right.
then there's a problem there we need to work on, because you've got to have humor within yourself to know that.
For sure. And you know what it was?
Forward.
That was the moment. So I'm sure you were delivering an enormous amount of value, but that's the moment where they got to know you.
Right.
Right.
Look, she is real.
She's real. And I do think people underestimate this kind of Me Too factor. Like, people want to feel the connection that you're not perfect, so then they don't need to be perfect either.
Correct.
Right. Now we're together on that. I don't need to be anyone but myself, because you're just yourself.
Right.
And so I would really encourage people to start to do some live video. It's really, really important. If you don't feel comfortable with reels yet, that's okay. You can start to do lives.
Right.
You can do lives on Instagram, and you don't even have to save them. You can just get on and practice and talk and see who's on. You can delete the video after you're done with it. It's okay. Just get practicing. I also really encourage the people that I coach to go live inside their stories, because that's a great little place. You're really talking just to your followers, and those go away after 24 hours. Like, there's really a number of ways to just practice.
Well, even with your story, if you don't like it, you can delete it before the 24 hours.
You can delete all of it.
There's no commitment.
Right. You can delete all of it. And I think we overthink how much other people are really thinking about us at all. Right. They're mostly thinking about themselves. And if you add value to them, then they think about you. But most of the time, we're all just thinking about ourselves. So
no, I agree.
Yeah.
And we remember things that other people won't remember. And like my incident with the chair, had I not made myself make what just happened?
Right.
Then no one ever would have paid attention. I had one girl, she goes, I didn't even notice anything until you said something. I went, well, even better, because it's like the laughter. There used to be a time in my life where I would laugh and I could hear my laugh and think, did I really just laugh that loudly? Did I just sound like that? Or when I would be on stage doing things, and it probably still does it to this day, I don't know, but I would feel like my nostrils would just go in and out. And I'm like, get over it. No one's paying as much attention to you than you're paying more attention to yourself than anyone's giving you credit for. So just do your thing.
And our job here on this planet is to play around and see what lights us up. Right. That's
absolutely.
Like, everything else that we're worried about is not really important. And we're only really here to help impact the people we're supposed to impact. And so I think the beauty of getting older is I've just stopped really worrying about people that I'm not for.
100%.
Right.
And the older we get, I didn't realize this until the older I started getting, the less filter we have, because it gets, I was raised, and I raised my daughter, say what you mean what you say.
Right.
But at the end of the day, just be authentic in delivering your message, and it's going to make everything else just come streamlining in. I mean, clients that I work with, they want to start doing their own businesses and doing things. And I've got to have my bank account set up. I've got to have this. I've got to have that. No, you don't.
No, you don't.
You just have to do it. You just have to go. Not everything's going to be in this perfect A, B, C, D, E order. You're not going to have all the boxes checked. You're going to still be creating it as you go. It's not going to be 100% flawless. If it was, well, that'd be a boring business, because
and there's no such thing. Right. And you're so right. You're going to slow yourself down. It's just fear. Well, that's just fear, right? You're afraid to start.
Right.
One of my mentors always says, start imperfectly. And I think that's just figure it out. One of my best friends says, let's just go make a mess and clean it up as we go.
Right.
Figure it out. Right. But if you just start, the pieces start to come together, but they won't until you get started.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're right. Fear will keep you
Oh.
from moving in any direction.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of back to the mindfulness meditation is you start to notice that all of our reservations are fear-based. And, our fear started as a very useful tool for human existence, right? It was to prevent us from getting eaten by bears, right? But now our brains have evolved to such an extent that our brains are constantly looking for things to avoid if
Mhm.
we don't actively stop it.
Correct.
Oh, it's wired to look for why it won't work. It's literally wired for that. So you can't listen to your thoughts on that.
Oh,
They're
no.
not true.
Right.
Right?
They'll tell you that it reminds
Oh.
me of the little devil angel that sits on this shoulder and
Yes.
the white one over here, the red one over here. And
Yes.
just talking in your inner ear, and you're finding just like block it out, get rid
Yeah.
of the lies, get rid of the
Right.
trash, and take it out, set it out to the curb. And it's easier said than done. I
It
think a lot
is.
of people would say that. What would you say when one is meditating to ask for in their meditation to absorb the fear and to not let
Yeah.
it manifest in their life?
Okay. So the first thing is I would say is to approach meditation as a noticing practice. Instead of feeling like you've got to eliminate all thoughts, which I think is the biggest misconception that people have about meditating, there's no such thing.
Right.
Your brain is always on.
Right.
And so you're trying to find ideally the space between the thoughts. That's where you really start to relax. The
Mhm.
thoughts are always going to come and just noticing them. And then I always say, ask the questions of, is it true? Is it helpful? And that's why I go back to my not helpful.
Right.
Is that thought true? And is it helpful? And if usually if it's bothering you, one of those is really, it's going to be a no.
Yeah, I'm going to steal your not helpful word. I like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to adapt that into my life. I really like that.
It's great because it sounds like you have a really good sense of humor. So I love to laugh at myself and my
okay,
ego, like, because once you realize that your ego is at play, you're like, oh, Tracey, did you get your feelings hurt there? What happened? Somebody hurt your feelings, Tracey? Like I will have that conversation with myself.
Right.
And the not helpful is also just like me catching my ego and being like, okay, I caught you.
Yeah. No, I really like
Right.
that. I could have used that about 2 days ago. Not helpful. Not helpful, brain. I need you to go in a different direction, please.
Right.
And so, yeah, I like that.
There's also a great little technique, and I'll send it to you. Again, I'm a big fan of Brendan Bouchard, as I think I've quoted him a couple of times. He has got a meditation practice that's called the release technique.
Okay.
And if you've got a thought that's just like clamping on, because let's be honest, sometimes a really negative thought, somebody could really hurt your feelings. You could be really angry with somebody. You're doing something that requires an enormous amount of courage, and fear will, like a vice, just like onto you. He has got a practice where you just say release over and over again, release, 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 release. And eventually your body just starts to release. He calls it the release technique.
I like that.
Yeah, I'll find it, but I'm sure you could find the listeners could find it on YouTube. It's a famous one by now, but I love that one. If I'm really caught up, and my brain will not let it go. It's like, it's like a dog with like his,
right.
claws and
Stuck
something
right there, like a leech. It won't go away.
Yeah. Yeah. And
so I had a coach do,
right?
So the release is kind of like, I had a coach do tapping. Have you heard of that?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So is it kind of along the same premises?
It's very similar without the tapping.
Okay.
Yeah. I love tapping.
I love tapping too. I look funny when I'm sitting in my car in the parking lot tapping, but I like tapping. It does release some things that I need to get rid of.
And it's based on a lot of science.
Right.
That really works well. Yeah.
So I know you were a frustrated mom who took a leap of faith and was able to build a profitable online income without sacrificing your priorities. I think that's amazing. There's other moms that I know are listening
Yeah.
and they're wanting to do that. What
Yeah.
advice do you have for them?
So, um, it's an interesting thing for moms, right? Is I think we're the ones that have to decide what our lives look like, or
Mhm.
else we will become the people that serve all the others. And we can feel guilty about that.
Right.
I know the idea of me leaving my career was, for me, was a hard one because I really loved what I did. I just couldn't do it all. And I found myself just really unhappy.
Mhm.
And I made this decision that it was just a no for now. And I thought maybe I would go back. I was in marketing and public relations. I thought I would maybe go back to that. Here's the fun thing. You never, and I'm sure you know this from your years in policing, you never leave one thing. You take the
Right.
skills with you. They come along for the ride.
Right.
You're not leaving one thing. You've built up skills and skills that you don't even realize that you have until you go and apply them in different places. And so what I would just encourage, if you're at home and you want to try to do something else, I would just start to really look. And again, go, do the vision board. Imagine what it would look like. And then start to get into some inspired action where you're looking for those opportunities. And if you're in a job and you're saying, well, I can't leave my job, I have to create a runway, then there's a lot of options out there. And so instead of looking for the reasons why it won't work, just start to look for some reasons to start, because I think we really can't
100%.
stop ourselves from starting, because again, our brains will be like, that is not going to work. You don't have time. You're too busy.
Mhm.
Those things never work. We'll just give ourselves all of these noises instead of just saying, what really speaks to me. I think women's intuition is no joke. And if we
Oh
can
no.
get past the fear thoughts and into our truest selves, we are always heading in the right direction.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. I policing for 20 years, and with the department I was with, you don't collect your pension until you're 52 years old, and I left at 45.
Yeah.
So I had 7 years, well, I still
Fill
have
in the
7
gap.
years, that I'm like, okay. And I was scared. I didn't know what I
Yeah.
was going to do. Of course, I went back to school and I got my nursing license, and I knew that I could be a nurse if I needed to, but I had opened up my spa that I have. And even still, I was like, well, gosh, I mean, I have guaranteed income
Right.
here. What am I going to do? But at the end of the day, that guaranteed income was not my guaranteed peace of mind love.
Yes.
And I left. I've been gone for a little over a year now. I made more money the first year I was gone than I made in the entire 20 years I was there. And I thought, I can't believe this is happening to me right now.
Right.
And I just had to release it and let nature take its course and trust the process and believe that it would happen. And I did a lot of meditation,
Yeah.
but it definitely had to stay that course and keep that positive mindset, affirmations coming forward. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying it was a walk in the park. I had days that were worse than others, but I persevered. And I think that women in general have that perseverance within themselves to do that.
Sure. Yeah.
And they're always thinking, oh, there's, my kids come first. And you can do something small when the kids are at home and start your online business or start an online moms group, or not even online. Maybe it's something where they all come over to your house and just start super small
Mhm.
and build from there and still be that engaged mom and do all the things that you want to do. Because
Yeah.
you found when you finally left corporate world and went into mommyhood and entrepreneurship that you actually had more time with family, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. And it's interesting reflection is such a beautiful thing. When I stopped working full time, I just jumped into volunteering. And so, I was really good at events. I mean, I worked in public relations. I could help with all of these. And I did all of the things for a while there. I was, the Parents Association chair, and I ran the benefit, and I, volunteered wherever I could. And what I ended up doing was just building this beautiful network of moms
Right.
and really great friendships that I will have for the rest of my life. And when and then they were supportive of me as I went on my journey to find my way back into wellness. And I started to teach classes, exercise classes in New York City, and they were all super supportive of that. Like it all kind of followed itself. It all kind of built on itself. And as I look at now my online wellness business, my wellness expertise is super helpful, but what's really helpful is my marketing experience.
Right.
Right.
Oh,
So
yes.
it all came with me. And as long as you keep just doing things that feel good and light you up and challenge you in a good way, the path will appear in front of you. It'll just keep appearing in front of you if you just trust. And so release was going to be like on the cusp of being my word for this year, because I'm a planner, and I always know when I trust and I release, it comes to me.
Right.
It doesn't mean I don't have to do the work. And to your point, I might not have some bumps in the road and there's not challenges, but it all keeps coming when I trust that it will. And I just keep going.
And I would say that would be your advice that you'll give listeners to attract the life they want. Just trust it.
Yes. Trust yourself. Get the head trash out, empty out the head trash, empty out the head trash, and then trust what really lights you up. So you're right. Again, as women, when we can get really in touch with our truest selves, we know the answer.
Right.
All the time.
And I don't like the word sorry. I'll come up with a word that I feel for women who can't put themselves first.
Yeah.
And they're putting everything else first.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where I think they see a lot of lag time and delay in advancing.
Right.
Because if you can't put yourself first,
right.
no matter what you're doing, it's last.
Yeah. 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 And that's where people get burnt out. That's where people experience burnout. It's really also just understanding what healthy boundaries look like for yourself.
For sure.
I had somebody message me on Instagram today that she wanted me to basically have a phone call with her to talk about her personal brand. And there was no way that I was going to give that time. And I just said, I don't have bandwidth for this right now. And I part of me is like, oh, she's going to be mad, but
not helpful.
Not helpful. Right. Not helpful. So knowing what you say yes to, knowing what you say no to, having your priorities, it's okay to say no to people.
Right.
It's okay. Yeah. You're right. We're people pleasers as women.
Oh, for sure. All the time.
Yeah.
And it took me the longest time to realize that the person who pleases everyone is pleasing no one. It's like when you're trying to find your client, the client, you can't serve every client. You say you service all, you serve no one. So you really have to, niche it down to where you're going to serve. And for women to just grasp the concept of the power that we have. Yeah. That for so long, we've just, let it come last. And it's just amazing what can come first if we just put I'm one of the they. If we just put our mind to it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the law of attraction. I listen to a lot of Abraham Hicks.
Right.
And they talk about how, why is selfish? Like they really try to reframe the word selfish. Right. Because you should be putting yourself, I also don't like to shit on people, but really we are here to experience this life. Right. Us. And so that should be the number one priority. And if you are saying no because it's not a priority for you, that's your prerogative to do that. You have every right in the world to do that. Your job is not to be here to figure out how many people you can make happy.
I agree with that. Yeah. So how can listeners connect with you? Tell me what can they do to find you? I know you're a coach.
Yeah.
So what would they utilize you for? Connect with you
Yeah.
for?
So the best way to find me is to go onto Instagram. That's
Okay.
where you're going to find the most, or Facebook. You can find me on either one of those. But on Instagram, I'm Coach Tracey with an EY_P.
Okay.
And
And I'll have
in
all of
there
that
will
in the show
always,
notes too.
okay, great. And in there is always a link to what my latest programs are. So as we're recording this, I'm launching a personal branding challenge that's free. That will be available at any time on my Instagram bio. So people can just jump in there and take that. And then my Magnetic Marketing Academy starts in a couple of weeks. That will go, and then that will happen a couple of times a year, but people can always jump onto the wait list for that as well. So those are the two big things. And then my podcast, but you can find that right from my Instagram as well.
Okay. And what's the name of your podcast?
Magnetic Marketing and Mindset Show.
Oh, I love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. And okay. So one key thing you want our listeners to take away from our talk today.
Your life happens by default or design.
That was beautiful.
Yeah. It really is on us. It's always on us, and we can really make magic happen. We just have to believe that we can.
All right. I love it. Well, my dear, if the listeners want to keep the conversation going, they can head on over to, I have a Facebook group, Mindset Great Empowerment Coaching for Women. That's free for people to join. They can come in and continue it there, or they can connect with Tracey and go connect and find all the great stuff that she is offering. I think that this was a wonderful time chatting with you. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and hopefully I can have you on again here in the very near future, and we can discuss more about this magnetic marketing. And the course that you have coming up right now, is that course full, or can people still sign up for that?
People can still sign up for it, for sure.
Okay, so I'll get all that in the show notes, and they can hopefully connect with you over there. So
yeah,
voila.
Perfect.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on. It was wonderful talking with you.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
Your beautiful smile, your beautiful life.
Thanks for listening to the Mindset Great podcast. If you've been loving this podcast and it is helping you approach your life and career in a brand new way, I have 3 requests/small favors. Number 1, make sure you hit subscribe so you're getting all the latest episodes to this podcast. Go ahead, I'll wait. Do it right now so you don't miss anything. Number 2, would you be so kind as to give me a review on Spotify or iTunes? Reviews help other professional, career-driven, and highly skilled women just like you find this podcast, and it lets them know they don't want to miss anything. It also helps the podcast climb in rankings, so think of it as empowering women to the top, paying it forward. And number 3, please join our Facebook group, Mindset Great Coaching. It is only for professional women and only those who are serious about changing their lives. If you're ready to take massive action and invest in yourself and your career, I would be honored to help you. Head on over to the Facebook group and let's get connected. Until next time, allow yourself grace and be beautiful.
Rise up and shine. With every morning comes a new chance to start over. Every day is a treasure.